conferred with the pilot. Aft, a helicopter was revving its engines, and a Tomcat fighter was taxiing towards a midships catapult. On top of this, a 30-knot wind was blowing. The carrier was
Continue for 11 miles.
Ryan up the ladder. Jack, who liked ladders about as much as he liked flying, nearly fell into his seat. He struggled to get situated properly, while a deck crewman strapped him into the 4-point restraint system. The man put the helmet on Ryan's head and pointed to the jack for its intercom system. Maybe American crews really did know something about Harriers. Next to the plug was a switch. Ryan flipped it. "Can you hear me, Parker?"
Yes, Commander. All settled in?
"I suppose."
Right.
Parker's head swiveled to check the engine intakes.
Starting the engine.
The canopies stayed up. 3 crewmen stood close by with large carbon dioxide extinguishers, presumably in case the engine exploded. A dozen others were standing by the island, watching the strange aircraft as the Pegasus engine screamed to life. Then the canopy came down.
Ready, Commander?
If you are. The Harrier was not a large fighter, but it was certainly the loudest. Ryan could feel the engine noise ripple through his body as Parker adjusted his thrust vector controls. The aircraft wobbled, dipped at the nose, then rose shakily into the air. Ryan saw a man by the island point and gesture to them. The Harrier slid to port, moving away from the island as it gained in height.
That wasn't too bad,
Parker said. He adjusted the thrust controls, and the Harrier began true forward flight. There was little feeling of acceleration, but Ryan saw that the Kennedy was rapidly falling behind. A few seconds later, they were beyond the inner ring of escorts.
Let's get on top of this rock,
Parker said. He pulled back on the stick and headed for the clouds. In seconds, they were in them, and Ryan's field of view was reduced from 5 miles to 5 feet in an instant. Jack looked around his cockpit, which had flight controls and instruments. Their airspeed showed 150 knots and rising. Altitude, 400 feet. This Harrier had evidently been a trainer. The instrument panel had been altered to include the readout instruments or a sensor pod that could be attached to the belly. A poor man's way of doing things, but from what Admiral Painter said, it had evidently worked well enough. He figured the TV-type screen was the FLIR readout, which monitored a forward-looking infrared heat sensor. The airspeed gauge now said 300 knots, and the climb indicator showed a 20-degree angle of attack. It felt like more than that.
should be getting the top of this soon.
Parker said.
Now!
The altimeter showed 26,000 feet when Ryan was blasted by pure sunlight. One thing about flying that he never got used to was that no matter how awful the weather was on the ground, if you flew high enough, you could always find the sun. The light was intense, but the sky's color was noticeably deeper than the soft blue seen from the ground. The ride became airliner smooth as they escaped the lower turbulence. Ryan fumbled with his visor to shield his eyes.
That better, sir?
Fine, Lieutenant. It's better than I expected.
What do you mean, sir?
Parker inquired. I guess it beats flying on a commercial bird. You can see more. That helps.
Sorry, we don't have any extra fuel, or I'd show you some aerobatics. The area will do almost anything you ask of her.
That's all right,
And your Admiral
Parker went on conversationally.
said that you don't fancy flying.
Ryan's hands grabbed the armrests as the Harrier went through 3 complete revolutions before snapping back to level flight. He surprised himself by laughing. Aha! The British sense of humor!
Orders from your Admiral, sir.
Parker semi-apologized.
We wouldn't want you to think the area's another bloody buzz.
Which Admiral, Ryan wondered. Painter or Davenport? Probably both. The top of the clouds was like a rolling field of cotton. He'd never appreciated that before, looking through a foot-square window on an airliner. In the back seat, he almost felt as if he were sitting outside.
May I ask a question, sir?
Sure.
What's a flat?
What do you mean?
I mean, sir, that they turn my ship around. Then I get orders to ferry a VIP from the Kennedy to the Invincible.
Oh, okay. Can't say, Parker. I'm delivering some messages to your boss. I'm just the mailman. Ryan lied. Roll that one 3 times.
Excuse me, Commander, but you see, my wife is expecting a child. Our first, soon after Christmas. I hope to be there, sir.
Where do you live?
Chatham, that's...
I know. I live in England myself at the moment. Our place is in Marlow, upriver from London. My second kid got started over there.
Born there?
Started there. My wife says it's those strange hotel beds. Do it to her every time. If I were a betting man, I'd give you good odds, Parker. First babies are always late anyway.
You say you live in Marlow?
That's right. We built a house there earlier this year.
Jack Ryan? John Ryan? The same chapel?
Correct. You don't have to tell anybody that, Lieutenant.
Understood, sir. I didn't know you were a naval officer.
That's why you don't have to tell anyone.
Yes, sir. Sorry for the stunt earlier.
That's all right. Admirals must have their little laughs. I understand you guys just ran an exercise with our guys.
Indeed we did, Commander. I sank one of your submarines, the Dooleby. My systems operator and I, that is. We caught her near the surface at night with our fleur and dropped noisemakers all around her. You see, we didn't let anyone know about our new equipment. All's fair, as you know. I understand her commander was bloody furious. I'd hoped to meet him in Norfolk, but he didn't arrive until the day we sailed.
You guys have a good time in Norfolk?
Yes, Commander. We were able to get in a day's shooting on your Chesapeake Bay. The Eastern Shore, I believe you call it.
Oh, yeah? I used to hunt there. How was it?
Not bad. I got my 3 geese in half an hour. Bagless was 3. Stupid.
You called in and blasted 3 geese in a half hour this late in the season?
That's how I earned my modest living, Commander, shooting.
Parker commented. I was up for a grouse shoot with your Admiral last September. They made me use a double. If you show up with my kind of gun, I use a Remington automatic, they'd look at you like you're some kind of terrorist. I got stuck with a pair of Purdy's that didn't fit. Got 15 birds. Seemed an awful lazy way to hunt, though, with one guy loading my gun for me and another platoon of ghillies driving the game. We just about annihilated the bird population, too.
We have more game per acre than you do.
That's what the Admiral said. How far to Invincible?
40 minutes.
Ryan looked at the fuel gauges. They were half empty already. In a car, he'd be thinking about a fill-up. All that fuel gone in half an hour. Well, Parker didn't seem excited. The landing on HMS Invincible was different from the Cod's arrival on the Kennedy. The ride became rocky as Parker descended through the clouds, and it occurred to Ryan that they were on the leading edge of the same storm he'd endured the night before. The canopy was coated with rain, and he heard the impact of thousands of raindrops on the airframe. Or was it hail? Watching the instruments, he saw that Parker leveled out at 1,000 feet while they were still in clouds, then descended more slowly, breaking into the clear at 100 feet. The Invincible was scarcely half the Kennedy's size. He watched her bobbing actively on the 15-foot seas. Parker used the same technique as before. He hovered briefly on the carrier's port side, then slid to the right, dropping the fighter 20 feet onto a painted circle. The landing was hard, but Ryan was able to see it coming. The canopy came up at once.
You can get out here,
Parker said.
I have to taxi to the elevator.
A ladder was in place. He unbuckled and got out. A crewman had already retrieved his bag. Ryan followed him to the island and was met by an ensign, a sub-lieutenant, the British called the rank. Welcome aboard, sir. The youngster couldn't be more than 20, Ryan thought. Let me help you out of the flight suit. The sub-lieutenant stood by as Ryan unzipped and took off his helmet, Mae West, and covered him. He retrieved his cap from the bag. In the process, he bounced off the bulkhead a few times. The Invincible seemed to be corkscrewing in a following sea. A bow wind and a following sea. In the North Atlantic in winter, nothing was too crazy. The officer took his bag and Ryan held on to the briefing material. Lead on, Lieutenant, Ryan gestured. The youngster shot up a series of 3 ladders, leaving Jack panting behind, thinking about the jogging he wasn't getting in. The combination of the ship's motion and an inner ear badly scrambled from the day's flying made him dizzy, and he found himself bumping into things. Professional pilots do it. Here's the flag bridge, sir. The sub-lieutenant held the door open. Hello, Jack, boomed the voice of Vice Admiral John White, 8th Earl of Weston. He was a tall, well-built man of 50 with a florid complexion set off by a white scarf at his neck. Jack had first met him earlier in the year. Since then, his wife Kathy and the Countess Antonia had become close friends, members of the same circle of amateur musicians. Kathy Ryan played classical piano. Tony White, an attractive woman of 44, owned a Guarnieri del Jesus